Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Technique Tuesday. My name is Ali Board. I am a professional artist, mixed media with a bit of watercolour thrown in for good measure. I'm also a teacher and I'm an author as well. So I hope that you are tuning into this broadcast because you're here for a bit of a chat. You're here to maybe learn some stuff which we're going to do together today. And Technique Tuesday is all about that. It's about a community of like-minded people coming together to share our experiences and maybe learn a few new things along the way. Now, you may notice some changes, particularly if you are a regular TT viewer. If you follow me on social media, you can find me at Ali Board Artist. You may have seen that there have been some changes afoot. And if you've been to the studio before, then you will be slightly bewildered by the fact that it looks very different, that you might recognize that I'm in a different place. We have done an enormous overhaul of the studio in the last couple of weeks. We basically ripped it all out and put it all back in again in a different configuration. We've got new storage in the building. We rewired it, we repainted it. And I say we, I'd be lying if I didn't say that basically I put it all together, I designed it, organised it, and then told my husband and a very good friend of ours, Andrew, where I wanted it all to be. It has been fantastically stressful to do, but I am chuffed to bits with it. Not only because I have all this room behind me now. So I would love your initial reactions to it if you are live in the chat. And people are popping up all the time. So yes, I'm at a different station now. I'm actually looking out on the landscape that inspires me. Except that I've got the blinds drawn because I'm doing a live broadcast. And I've got this new fantastic station in front of me with all of my kit around me. I can't wait for you to see it if you get to pop in and be here or take a class here. You will notice that there's quite a few differences. Now, Technique Tuesday has changed, as has the studio over the last few months. Technique Tuesday used to be me demonstrating a project, but we've kind of expanded on that, particularly if you are a regular, because you are all brilliantly self-sufficient artists and you know what it is that you want to paint, but there's some particular subjects, there's some intricacies in there that might be tripping you up or you might not understand. And so what I did was I put it out to you guys to go, what do you want to talk about? What do you want me to demonstrate? What is it that we want to chat about? And originally, today's subject was a bit of an idea for me because it baffled me, this thing. But a lot of you have emailed me or sent me a message on social media, particularly the lovely Angela, who I know can't be here live today, but she is watching it on catch up, because today we're going to be talking about pencil sharpeners. And that is a very large Alice-shaped rabbit hole that I cannot believe is as complicated as I first thought. So in a minute, we're going to go to a different part of my desk over here and have a look at a selection of pencil sharpeners. But if you are tuned into this live or if you're watching it on catch up via my website, I would love to know your experiences because I can only share mine today. I can only share my opinion with you. I can only kind of show you the bits of kit that I have got and tell you my thoughts on them. So do keep your comments coming in. If you see me looking over to this side, it's because I can see some of the chats and lots of people saying that they're liking the look of the studio. Yes, it looks very spacious, Hilary, because we put everything away. It's amazing what happens, isn't it, when you put stuff away and organise it and put it into boxes and all of those kind of things. I think what I might do up here on my right is kind of all my day-to-day kit. I think I might take a photograph of it and put that on social media as well. And yes, Sue, you are correct. It is lovely and bright. Now, Hilary has already kicked us off with this discussion. about sharpeners, and she's saying, I've got a Swordfish sharpener. Hold that thought, everybody, because Swordfish is a brand that we're going to be talking about. So keep your comments coming in, keep your questions coming in. If I can't answer them during the broadcast, I will endeavour to answer them afterwards. And obviously, if someone puts up a question and you know the answer to it, answer yourself. That would be grand, because that is what we're all about, isn't it? It's about all these people scattered all over the world, all sharing their best experiences. So shall we go to that overhead camera and we'll start to talk about pencil sharpeners and what it is that I have discovered recently. So here are the selection of pencil sharpeners that I currently own, and it is a bewildering array. And this is literally tip of the iceberg in terms of pencil sharpeners, because there are so many around. Let me try and break it down in easy steps for you so that you can understand. Now, we've got pencil sharpeners that are your kind of traditional sort of pencil sharpener. So something maybe like these sort. So we've got, I can never remember the company name of this. It's M&R. I want to say Mobius and somebody. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We've got like a large hole sharpener there. This is a Swordfish. So Swordfish is a manufacturer of pencil sharpeners. And when I was doing my research about them, Swordfish come out pretty highly in tests. But this is just one of their normal, what we would call just a little kind of portable pencil sharpener. Got a small hole and a large hole. We'll talk more about that later. And we've got a Derwent one here. Now, the Derwent one specifically says for pastel and charcoal. But we're going to test all of those in just a second and see how they fare. What else have I got over here as well? I've got this pencil sharpener. I'm going to open it the wrong way. This pencil sharpener made by Stapler. Which has got like a little pot to collect your shavings in, and again has a small and a large hole, and it's got written on here graphite, and it's got written graphite and colour. Again, we will come to that. I'm going to leave the other things for a minute. Then we've got what are called helical sharpeners. So a helical sharpener is a sharpener. Let me take this apart for you. So can you see on this, let's get it in the close-up camera straight away so that you can see what I'm talking about. Can you see this has got a blade that spins? Let's move these out of the way. And so what happens is you put your pencil in that hole there, and then this blade goes around your pencil and sharpens it by a blade just there, like that. This is a Derwent. This is a very old pencil sharpener of mine that is still going. We'll talk about the paperclip in a minute. So that's the Derwent one. Then we have the Swordfish Icon, which again is exactly the same, got that helical blade, but there's a difference between this one and the Derwent one, which we'll talk about in a second. And then we have my Xacto one. Now, this has always been my pencil sharpener of choice, but I've changed my mind about this recently. So hold on to your hats, because we've got a lot to talk about with these. So lots of different sorts of helical sharpener there. Then we've got sharpeners where you would use a knife for them. And we have some sharpening guides. Again, I'm going to go through all of that this morning. Got a couple of guides there. And we've got this guide here too. Now, don't panic about any of these. And certainly don't rush out and buy them. Because out of a lot of these, whilst I own obviously all of them, they're not all things that I would rush out to buy again. But I must caveat all of this with the fact that this is only my opinion. You need to go and make your own decisions about these pencil sharpeners. It's going to depend on your skills in terms of sharpening them by hand. It's going to kind of concern your budget, because obviously some of these pencil sharpeners are a lot of money indeed. There's a whole realm of pencil sharpeners that I haven't even touched on. That's the electric pencil sharpener or the battery pencil sharpener, where you kind of put the pencil in the, usually in the top, and it kind of does it for you. I haven't got one of those. I had one of those a long time ago, but it just drove me nuts because I was forever replacing batteries, and it didn't do as good a job actually as I thought. So this is why it's a massive Alice-shaped rabbit hole. Now, I've had some comments coming in already. Anita, the lovely Anita Pounder. So I know that some of you know Anita and follow her work. She's put, yes, spent 2 hours sharpening pastel pencils yesterday. Can happen, can't it, Anita? Jo said that she bought a hovel sharpener. Can't get the angle right to sharpen the pencils. Very frustrating. So a hovel sharpener is a bit like a carpenter's, I'm going to forget the word, plane. That's the word, as in Plane, that you use to kind of glide across the tip of your pencils to kind of get little bits of it away. They're quite expensive. They're a bit of an investment, and there are cheaper alternatives. And actually, some of my All Aboard membership, my monthly art club that I run, some of them have even made their own version of that. I know the lovely Christine has made her own version. And Jo is right. Perseverance will prevail. I haven't ever had a go with one myself. Jo, next time I see you, I think I would like to have a go with it. To see how annoying it is, but it is supposed to be very good. Karine says, I have a Faber-Castell sharpener, which does me. Yes, so we've got lots of advice coming in already. Let's go back to that overhead camera, and I'll show you right from the basic to the most complicated with a range of pencils, and we'll see how we get on, shall we? Jo is saying that she thought her hovel would be good for pastel pencils. Yes, I think it is, Jo. I think it just, like you said, does take a little bit of getting used to. But of course, I haven't tried it myself. Right, let's clear the decks. Let's pop some of these things away. I'm going to start with, oh, I've got so much kit here. Good old-fashioned, little, tiny, normal, what we would call normal, hand pencil sharpener. So again, let's go to a bit of a close-up video so that you can see properly what it is that I'm using. So I've got 3 here. Like I said, I've got my M&R brass one, I've got my Swordfish one, and I've got my Derwent. Now the Swordfish, not going to lie to you, this is brand new. I bought it because of the name, because Swordfish are kind of synonymous with pencil sharpeners. And it kind of fit in my hand. It had a small and a large hole. So we're going to see, we're going to put all of these through their paces and see what they can do. To do that, I've got a graphite pencil. I've got an Inktense pencil. I've got a polychromos pencil, a colouring pencil. What else have I got? I've got a graphite stick. And then I've got a selection of pastel pencils. Now, pastel pencils, this is a very contentious issue, pastel pencils, because everyone has their opinion about how you should sharpen a pastel pencil. And I'm sure that the information that I give you today, you'd find somebody else on the internet, YouTube, or wherever who would have a different opinion. That is the glorious bit about our community. Everyone is going to have a different opinion on what they think works. Take my advice with a pinch of salt. Go and try these things out for yourself. If you're part of an art club or art group, why not have a day where everyone brings in their pencil sharpeners and you try them out and you share each other's experiences? That would certainly stop you spending money that you don't need to spend, wouldn't it? And hopefully someone in your group would have like a real fancy one. Somebody might have like a real basic one, because it doesn't go that if you spend a lot of money, it's a good pencil sharpener. Believe me from my experience. Okay, so let's start with the brass one. This is got a large hole in it and a small hole. Can you see that it's double-sided? Got the large one there, got the small one there. So let's again clear the decks. Let's stick the pencil in the smaller hole and see how it does. So this is also about feel. So if you don't have a lot of mobility in your wrist, sometimes hand pencil sharpeners can be a bit of a challenge. but that seems to be sharpening it quite well. It's certainly taking the wood away. This is a good quality pencil. This is a Faber-Castell graphite pencil 9000. So this is not your cheap wood. This will be a cedar wood. It will have what's known as a bonded lead in it. So that strip of graphite will be stuck all the way down. It doesn't stop it shattering, but it certainly lessens the likelihood of it shattering if I dropped it, for example. Seems to be doing a pretty good job of that. Isn't making the point particularly long. It is a little bit sticky in there in the way that I turn it, but for something that didn't really cost a lot of money, I think it's doing an okay job. So for the larger hole, let's test one of the pastel pencils. So the two pastel pencils that are notorious for not fitting in sharpeners are these two. That's the Conte pastel pencil and the Caran d'Ache pastel pencil. Poles apart in terms of what they can do for you, but that's another discussion for another day. If you think a whole discussion about pastel pencils would be a good idea, then let me know. It can always form part of a future Technique Tuesday. This one is a much harder. That doesn't make it bad, incidentally. That means it's better for detail. And the Caran d'Ache pastel pencil, very kind of creamy in its consistency. Now, my Conte pastel pencils are donkey's years old. I don't think I've bought replacements for these for years. But let's put that one through its paces. Okay, so that's not too bad. Again, a little bit sticky. It's quite, you need a bit of grip for it. So if you do have some mobility issues or a little bit of arthritis in your hand, it might not be the sharpener for you. But let's put it through. It's making a really decent job of it. That's a nice point on that pencil. Now, it is a harder lead, so that helps. I do look after my pastel pencils and try very hard not to drop them because that can shatter the lead. And so sometimes, even if you look after them, if they've been dropped or something's happened to them in transit, then you can be sharpening and end up with just a broken pastel pencil, which is a bit frustrating. But actually, I'm quite impressed with that. That's brought it to a nice sharp point. Let's get the Conte in there, the Caran d'Ache, sorry, in there and give that a twist. So yeah, again, a bit sticky. It's taking a lot off the colour strip. But again, making a nice point out of it. That's pretty good, isn't it? It's chewing up the actual wood around the pastel pencil a little bit. I don't know that I'm wild about that part of it. This is, the blade in this is brand spanking new. And we'll talk about blades later on during this broadcast. But actually, that's an okay job, isn't it? That's not too bad at all. Let's put some others through their paces, shall we? So let's try actually the Derwent pencil sharpener with the blade, and let's put a Derwent pastel pencil through it. This is obviously designed to do this thing. So again, a bit sticky. I'm having to push quite hard. Now this is shattering, but I picked this pencil out of my kit for a reason, is that I have a suspicion that it's broken all the way down. So I don't think this is the pencil sharpener's fault. I think this is a pastel pencil that is literally falling apart. So whilst it's doing an okay job, I would say that this isn't quite as robust as my brass one. It is, after all, a plastic casing as opposed to a brass casing. Let's just try this pastel pencil in there, which I think is a little bit tougher. Yeah, it's not great. That's not one of my favourites, I have to say. Okay, but we'll move on to the next one. Let's try that Swordfish sharpener. So I know this is sharp, but let's stick it in there and see what that does. Okay, that is a very smooth action. Look how that has come off in a single kind of reel. That's quite impressive. Now, this is brand new. This is brand spanking new. So the blades are going to be quite sharp. I'm just looking to see if there's a brand on the blade. There isn't. but that's pretty good. The only thing I would say about this is that it's made the exposed graphite quite short. And if you like to use your sketching pencil on its side, then you're not going to have an awful lot of graphite exposed there. Something else to kind of think about. Now, in the larger hole, I'm running out of pencils already. Let's just pop the ink tents in there and see what that does. Ooh, that's nice. Look at that. Again, a slightly shorter colour strip exposed, but that I'm pretty impressed with that. That was not an expensive sharpener either. So again, that Swordfish name, kind of synonymous with a quality sharpener. That's really interesting. Okay. Let's go on. This is a sharpener that I have used for a long time. So this is my Stapler tub sharpener. It kind of goes everywhere with me because it catches all of the detritus, as you can see there. It has a hole for graphite. Oh, let's pop that in there. I know you can't see it, but it's got a very smooth action to it. Let's take that off. Again, can you see right there that we've got a long reel of wood that's come off? That's a pretty good sign. Let's put the tub to one side. Nice sharp point on it, a little bit more exposed than the Swordfish. Quite sure I'm quite impressed with that. And actually, this is not new at all. As you can probably see from the blades, they're very grubby. Let's put my polychromos through it. Again, a nice continuous line holding together very well. A bit shorter again maybe than I would like, not much colour strip exposed, but that is doing a pretty good job. And like I said, ordinarily you would have all of that detritus kind of caught in that pot there. That continues to be one of my favourites, I think. Now, again, let's clear the decks a little bit and talk to you about blades. It is perfectly possible in these pencil sharpeners to replace the blades in them. Here's a little pot of blades. You can buy these. They are not difficult to find at all. Let's pull one out. Now, unfortunately, I'm not entirely convinced that all blades are universal. Now, cold fingers this morning. These are M&R blades, so they're the same brand as this brass sharpener. So I know that that blade is going to fit in that sharpener. Is it going to fit in the Swordfish? I'm not sure about that. Those also look to be slightly different blades now that I look at it. Can you see that the top one is slightly wider than the bottom one? I think that's something that I need to investigate. Here's something that is very interesting. Can you see on this brass one, you've got a little Phillips screw in there, which means I can replace that nice and easily. I have this in my kit as well. This was very cheap little screwdriver set that I purchased. As you can see, lots of different things going on in there. Let's get the handle and let's see if we can match. I think probably that is the right size, maybe. Yes, it is. So let's pop one of those. This little screwdriver set is good for all sorts of things, taking them apart. And so I can unscrew that, take that out. It's turned, it's gone a little bit magnetic. I can lift that blade away. I can put the new blade in when I can pick it up. And as long as I haven't lost the screw, it's a bit fiddly, I grant you, but at least that makes your pencil sharpener, it's not going to be disposable. So you're able to kind of replace the blades, put new ones in, and then it's good to go again. As you know, I'm all for things that are sustainable, so I could replace those blades. You've got to dispose of your blades quite carefully. You need to wrap them up, or you need to find a sharp spin or something like that. I'm not even sure that that they will be accepted in sharp spins, but it would be worth a conversation, wouldn't it? Now, in the Swordfish one, can you see that that is not a Phillips head? But often in these kits, let me find it, I know it's here somewhere, sometimes you do get some unusual heads. Is this going to fit? No, rats, it's too big. But I know that my husband has got an even smaller set of these. It's going to make the Swordfish blades hard to replace, which is unusual for Swordfish, which we'll talk more about in a second. But you might need to do some investigation on all of that. But for the most part, these are replaceable. You can also sharpen these. There are two ways that you can sharpen them. If your blade gets a bit blunt, let's use my old stapler as an example, and you want to sharpen this blade, one of the easiest ways is to pass a graphite stick through it. So a graphite stick is one of those that looks a bit like a pencil, but has no wood casing around it. And running that through any kind of sharpener, whether it be a hand sharpener or a helical sharpener or an electric sharpener, will give your blades a bit of extra life. If you've got a very wide hole on yours, let me just tap this to one side because I'm getting bits of sharpening everywhere. That one actually doesn't go in that hole, but you can get different sizes of graphite stick. Does that go? No, it doesn't go in that one either. But that is a handy little hint for how you might want to sharpen them. Let's put this back together carefully so that I don't break anything. So hopefully that sums up how you can change some of these things and give them a second life. If you've got any questions about that and you're watching this broadcast live, stick them in the chat now. If you've got any questions and you're watching back via my blog on the website, I'll give you the links to that later on, then I will try to get to them. Now, another way that you could sharpen your blades if you wanted to is on a whetstone. So this is a grit whetstone. We use this for sharpening chisels, as you can see, and all sorts of other things. You can try to bring some of the sharpness back by using a whetstone. It's a bit fiddly, I grant you, but your whetstone will come in handy for all sorts of sharpening tools as well. If you're a printmaker and you use lino printing tools, then this is also the thing for sharpening those back up again. I use it for sharpening some of my scalpel blades, all that kind of thing. So you can get a little bit of an edge back on that with something like a whetstone. Again, not very expensive to buy, a good handy thing to have in your toolkit. I have my own very kind of girly version of a toolkit. Obviously, I have a husband who's a carpenter, which helps enormously, but I like my own tools. I like to be able to put my hand on my tools when I want them. So some of these things are useful additions to have. So like I say, hopefully that discusses your little kind of hand versions of sharpeners and how you can replace the blades. Let's clear the decks. Maybe we'll go to the main overhead and we'll talk about helical sharpeners. So as I said at the top of this broadcast, a helical sharpener is one where the blade rotates around the object that you're trying to sharpen. I'm going to put these to one side and I'm going to show you my old faithful. This is my Derwent. I think actually this design has changed now. You'll be able to tell me what they're called now. These sharpeners must be, I would say, at least 12, 15 years old. So they've got a little drawer at the front which catches the shavings. And then to use them, it's not blindingly obvious how you use one of these, but you have this panel at the front. You can see it's got little claws in there and a button here. So you push that button in, you pull out the front, you choose whatever weapon it is. I'm just going to reach for some extra pencils. I didn't anticipate that I would go through them quite as quickly as I have done. Let's see if we can find some really, oh no, that's not one, some blunt ones. And this is the joyful thing about the new studio. I can put my hand on whatever I want. Isn't that grand? So you would press the button again, put the pencil in there. Now, depending obviously on whether you're right or left-handed, you can put your hand on the top, you can hold it here, or you can get nifty little clamps that fit in there so that you could clamp it to a desk if you wanted to. Again, we'll talk more about that in a second. And then you rotate the handle. You'll see that that drawer starts to retract as it pulls the pencil in. And when it's sharp, you'll feel, you can tell how old it is by how much it's squeaking. It was sort of freewheel its way around. Then you press the button again, pull the pencil out, and you've got a nice sharp pencil. Even though this is quite old, it's still standing me in very good stead indeed. I do sharpen them regularly with a graphite pencil, but I tell you the thing that will take the edge off pencil sharpeners in an instant is a pastel pencil. Literally will just chew up your blade. Here's a Carbothello pastel pencil. Let's put that one in and see what happens. Yeah, it's freewheeling. Take it out. So not doing a great job of that, but it might be the pencil itself. Oh no, that it's not liking that at all. In fact, it's made it fall apart. That's what happens to these things. It's not liking that. Let's try and get it back together. What's good is that you can take these apart, and it looks like what's happened, if I look down the barrel of it, I can see that there's a bit of pastel pencil that is stuck in there, which is very serendipitous because it leads me on to how you unblock one of these. Now, some really posh helical sharpeners have a button on the back of them that you press and it pokes that little bit of graphite or pencil or whatever it is out. But this one doesn't. This was not a very expensive one. So here's where the paperclip comes in. It's just a normal paperclip that I use to poke down the hole. Then it kicks out the excess pastel. Now I can look down it and you can see that it's clear. Let's pop that back together. Go on back in. Let's see if I can get a better point on that pencil. Oh, no, it's okay. It is better. But it is chewing its way through, which could be the pencil, could be the sharpener. Now, this brings me on to the massive, massive rabbit hole that I fell down recently doing the research for this broadcast. When I bought this sharpener, it never occurred to me at any point that I might want to replace this blade. Not only is it becoming a little bit less sharp, but it's getting stuck in the mechanism, all of those kind of things. And I was thinking, oh, brilliant. Well, maybe there's a way that I could buy a replacement part for it. Who knows? That might be a thing that you can do. Or maybe I can just replace this part of it. And then I noticed that there's a pin here. Let's stick it in the close-up so that you can see what I'm talking about. And you see that little pin that's there. Some really expensive pencil sharpeners you can get, and that is actually a screw, which if you unscrew it, you can replace this part of it, which would be grand. But I can't do that with this. It's kind of a sealed unit. So it means that if this goes blunt for whatever reason, I've got to buy a new one, which isn't the best thing really, is it? Because, oh, I can't get it back together. There we go. Because this is plastic and I don't really want to stick it in landfill unless I absolutely have to. So I went from that pencil sharpener to this pencil sharpener, which is made by Xacto, which is actually an American company. Now, I bought this quite cheaply because the mount that's on it, this is what's known as a vacuum mount. The idea is that you pop it onto the table and you hinge it down and it kind of sticks to the surface. It doesn't work at all. But the thing I loved about this pencil sharpener, as I'm sure you can see, is that you've got different size holes, which are selected by pushing down this lever, and you can rotate it so that you can get very large pencils in there and very small pencils. It will take my Caran d'Ache pastel pencils, and as you can see, a lot larger as well. Will it take my graphite? No, not quite. But you can, all the kind of pencils that you might encounter, certainly you can get into this sharpener. So to remove this one is a bit trickier. So you actually twist the front off of it and pull that off, and there's all the sharpenings inside. Now this is a double helical sharpener. As you can see, you've got two blades rotating around, which makes it very, very efficient. And when I was doing my research, I thought, oh, wow, because I love this sharpener an awful lot, I thought, okay, I can't replace these because this isn't a screw. I'm going to have to replace the whole unit. So it has a nice screw on the back of it. And I thought, oh, brilliant. This is a really good sign that I can take the handle off, that I can maybe buy a replacement for this. Couldn't find a replacement anywhere. I sent an email 2 weeks ago to the company that owns Xacto. I haven't had a reply. So not the greatest customer service in the whole world. Maybe they will get back to me at some point. If they do, I will give you an update. So then I started doing a bit of research into what people thought was the kind of the best helical sharpener on the market. And Swordfish was a name that kept coming up and kept coming up and kept coming up. Because there are many, many pencil artists out there, much more accomplished pencil artists than I am, who kept saying, Swordfish. Swordfish is the way to go. And I was intrigued as to why, because actually doesn't look a lot different from my Derwent one. I didn't really want to go out and buy another sharpener, but let me show you the difference. It works in the same way. So you pull out the front. Let's see if it will do my Derwent pencil. The Derwent pencil only just goes into this hole. Can you hear the difference? Really kind of cutting into that. It started, yeah, it has snapped. This is the pencil's fault. This is not the sharpener. Let's take the back off. Let's do the old, where have I put me, my paper clip? Let's do the same as we've done before. Get rid of that detritus on there. But the design of the blade seemed very different. I looked at it when I was investigating it. There are lots of kind of videos on YouTube about pencil sharpeners. And I looked at it and I thought, oh, that's so disappointing because I can't replace this blade. That's a pin and not a screw. But no. If you buy a Swordfish sharpener, and I don't know that they do it for all of them, but they certainly do it for the majority of their helical sharpeners, you can replace this part of it. So you don't have to chuck this away. You can buy a whole new unit. And when I was doing my research, there were lots of people going, well, what's the point? Because the blade is nearly as expensive as buying it new. And yes, I get that, but you're not having to chuck this away all the time. That's not a thing. So I haven't got to stick this into landfill. Okay, I've got an issue with this part of it being thrown away, but I'm looking into at the moment, maybe this could be recycled for the metal. Who knows? It's just a discussion that you can have. Again, a line to be drawn. Why will that not go back in? Because you're not fitting it properly, Ali. And that is something that I think is quite an interesting discussion to be had, and I think is important if you're looking at the kind of longevity of any tools that you purchase. So there are many, many Swordfish brands out there. There's many different versions of this sharpener. I've gone for the Swordfish Icon simply because that was the one that was being recommended all the time. There's many pastel pencil and coloured pencil artists out there who think that this is the best. And let's face it, if lots of people are saying the same thing, then they can't all be wrong, can they? Excuse me. Now, a couple of comments have come in just before I get to the last part of it. I was hoping that we could talk about acrylic gouache today, but it doesn't look like we're going to get to that. I hadn't anticipated it would take me so long to talk about a pencil sharpener. What's going on here? So Ali D is saying that she bought a new Derwent Helical sharpener recently because the old one was not working well, even though she conditioned it with a graphite pencil. Hillary P is saying that she had exactly the same Derwent one and got very frustrated with it. Ali is also saying the new one is really good, but she's now leaning towards the Stapler one as it's more portable. That's quite interesting, isn't it? Because you don't really want to be dragging one of these around all the time. This might be a sort of desk thing, and maybe you have something for taken to class. Yes, many a time I have done running repairs on people's sharpeners when they've been in the studio. And Hillary is saying that her Swordfish is brilliant and she replaced her Derwent one with it. Lots of opinions on that, lots of variations to be had on it. Let me show you just one more variation on the sharpening. And I know that this was something that Angela said to me, because traditionally you wouldn't use a pencil sharpener of any form, hand, helical, electric, whatever it was, you would need to sharpen it by hand with a blade. And I had lots of emails from you saying, yeah, that's all very well and good, Ali, but every time I do it, I snap the end off, things go wrong, I'm not strong enough. So let's just take that apart, shall we, and see how we get on with that. Let's go straight to close-up. So if you, let's grab my knife. If you wanted to sharpen a pencil, either because it's being a bit stroppy or because you like this, for example, here's something that I prepared earlier for you. If you like to have look at the state of my hands, a long bit of colour strip exposed because you want to be shading with it on the edge, or you want to have a variety of marks out of it, then you want to be taking the wood away and exposing the colour strip, and you do that with a knife. Let's show you how to do it traditionally, and then I'll show you a bit of a genius hack. So in my experience, a scalpel, like a traditional, very fine cut scalpel, something like this, A, very dangerous, and B, I don't think it does as good a job as what we would call a click-up knife. You can see there that you can snap the blades off, but this I like because you can have just a little bit of blade exposed or a lot of blade exposed. And the idea is that you hold your pencil in your non-dominant hand, but you're going to use your thumb in this motion. You're going to keep your knife in your dominant hand, and then what you're going to do is you're going to use your non-dominant thumb to shave off little bits of the wood. So you're not trying to take the colour strip or the graphite away. You're just kind of removing the wood. This needs to be sharp, obviously. Don't do it with a blunt one. And can you see there that if you work your way around it a little bit at a time, you can get a rather nice long bit of your colour strip exposed. But that whittling, there is a knack to it. It is something that you need to practice, because what tends to happen, let's do it to this one, is that if you're a bit ham-fisted, or if you try to dig it too much, can you see I'm trying to take too big a section away, then what can happen is that you take too much of the graphite away, and there you go, the graphite snaps. Or maybe you haven't got the dexterity involved, and I get this is very time consuming. If you want to get on with your picture, this can be deeply frustrating. As Anita said earlier on, you can spend hours of your life literally sharpening pencils. So you can see how easy it is to get it wrong. Then I came across these tools. So these were the first two I came across. Don't get excited. Don't waste your money. There's a better one, a better version that I can show you. So these were actually from the makeup industry. You can see that one there's got a blade on it, but the idea was, can you see it's got a bit of a guide on there? And the idea is that you put your pencil in it and then you use your blade to whittle this away. But it did, can you see that it's not really doing the best job? It's not taking enough away. It's as if the pencil isn't the right kind of shape for it. So I had that one. And then I had this one. I don't know if you can see that in the recess of all of them, it was showing you the different shapes that you could make with it. I haven't been able to make these work. Let's choose like a normal one. But again, can you see that it's, oh, I've even taken a bit of the plastic away there. It sort of presumes that your pencil is already sharp. It doesn't fit in there really well. And I started to get super frustrated with this. But then I found this little gizmo. This, in my opinion, is genius because of its simplicity. Now, it's got a little nut on the side of it, which you can unscrew, and you can pop your pencil in there. You can expose it as much or as little as you like. Let's take it so that the nib sort of almost lines up, and then you clamp it in there, and then you take your knife, and because this is metal, you're not going to cut into it, and you can guide it. It's double-sided so that you can take care of two sides at the same time. And look at that, easy as pie. I haven't got to, I'm still pushing it with this, but I don't necessarily have to. I could be holding it in one hand and doing the other. Slacken it off ever so slightly, turn my pencil around, re-tighten it, and there we can go again. I can flip it over. I can do the two sides of it. Let's do one more pass of this. They're called sharpening guides. They are available on my website. I've got black ones on the website. Actually, the black ones are a little bit nicer design than my original prototype, but they're on there if you're interested in purchasing one. I just thought this was such a clever idea for those of you that really struggle to sharpen a pencil by hand and have that colour strip exposed. I think that is a really good compromise between your traditional pencil sharpener, whittling it by hand, and getting a nice kind of point on this. Now, the only disadvantage of these is that they don't take an enormous pencil. I can't, can I get, ooh, I can get my Caran d'Ache in there. I didn't think I could, because Caran d'Ache are notorious for sharpening. Let's see, that horrible green Derwent pencil that was not doing too well. Let's see how I fare with that, because sometimes there are pencils that are just destined to break. Yeah, this one just broken all the way down. There's not much that I can do for this poor pencil. We'll see if we can give it a fighting chance. Derwent pastel pencils do break quite easily, unfortunately. I am managing to take the wood away from it though. See if I can find a bit that isn't broken. That doesn't look too shabby. Let's give it a twist and a turn. Again, a small amount of knack involved, but there's worse things to do, aren't there, than learn some pencil whittling skills. Let's get that maybe one more pass to get the front and the back of it. Oh, don't go all gung-ho on it, Ali. Be a bit careful. And actually, considering how much trouble I had with that pencil earlier in the broadcast, there it is, all ready to go. And actually, I'm quite pleased with that. I've surprised myself. So I hope that gives you a bit of an insight and hopefully a resolution to how you can sharpen your pencils by hand and get more life out of them potentially. I am now covered in graphite and pastel and all the rest of it. Now, this is the opportunity, if you are watching this live, to get any questions, or if you want me to re-demonstrate anything. We've got a few minutes left of this broadcast, so do get your questions in, or if you've got a question, then email me. Hillary's going, ooh, the tension. I know, to get it sharp. So there are some questions coming in. So this brings me on to talk about future broadcasts. We didn't get the opportunity to talk about acrylic gouache today, but that can form part of a future broadcast. Maureen is saying, is there a particular brand of gesso you would recommend? I want to use gesso prime paper for texture on watercolour. Maureen, if you can hold that thought, I'm going to write it straight into my TT book now. Maybe that's something that we can deal with in the future. That's a really good question, actually. And if you follow my work, you know that gesso is something that I use all the time. It would be nice to do a comparison of gessos, wouldn't it? Sue is saying, goodness, I didn't realise how complicated sharpness can be. Thanks so much for explaining. Sally is saying, who would have guessed the complexity of sharpening a pencil? Ali D is asking the ClickUp, what's the brand of a ClickUp cutter? This is Olfa, O-L-F-A. Olfa is a quite well-known brand of knives. There's 2 or 3 out there, Stanley. I chose this one because, again, it's metal and not plastic, so I'm not going to snap it or do any of those things. You can also get replacement blades for it really easily, so again, you're not kind of wasting things. Anne is saying lots of information to take on board. That it's my pleasure. That's kind of what I'm here for. So let's talk about our next TT. So our next TT is the 3rd of December, very close to the festive season, if you celebrate that. And maybe we will talk about gesso in that one. I'll have a look at my little chart that I keep to see what it is that I'm going to be talking about. But we're definitely going to be talking about tonal values. That is something that lovely Julie in Australia asked a couple of months ago. And I'm keen to talk about that because it's one of those things that you kind of feel you should know, that you know a little bit about, but maybe you don't fully understand. She was asking about it in relation to doing animal portraits, replicating fur and that kind of thing. But I'm actually going to take it right back to basics to talk about tonal values. We'll be looking at it in probably graphite and definitely in watercolour. So I'm hoping that that might be of use to you. Don't forget that you can find lots of information on my website, www.learningtopaint.co.uk. And there's some massive news coming soon in terms of materials that you will be able to purchase via the website. We're currently in the process of making a huge addition to the site, which is very exciting. And I can't wait to share that news with you. Don't forget, you can always email me. Oh, I'm tired. I've changed the studio round. You can always email me, ali@learningtopaint.co.uk. You can follow me on my socials. My socials are at Ali Board Artist, and you'll find me on Facebook and Instagram, and obviously right here on YouTube too. So I hope that that was useful to you. Thank you very much for being the first to join me in the new configuration of the studio. What's delicious now is I can leave all of this. I don't need to clean it up. I've got some admin to do, but that's over at the other station. So thank you very much for taking the time to join me, whether you have been watching live or on catch up. It's been really great to chat and to catch up. Take care of yourselves, won't you? Keep painting, keep creating, and I will see you very soon. Take care, lovely people.